My second guest is joining me right now. Andrew, you are on the air of Triple Threat Wrestling Radio. What's going on, man?
Hey, everybody. Good to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to come on.
Thank you, sir. And let's go ahead and begin. Um, talk a little bit about yourself. How did your wrestling career got started?
Well, really, as far as I can remember back in my life, I've always loved pro wrestling. I can remember watching with my grandparents and parents around the television screen, and always knowing that that was what I loved, and everything about it, whether it was the drama or the comedy or the characters. It was just all so larger than life and wonderful, and I knew I had to get to be a part of that. And once I found some people who I expected to be reputable trainers, I guess you could say, I dove right in, and I haven't looked back since, man.
Do you remember your first wrestling match you ever had? And if so, who was your opponent? And what company did you work for at the time?
My very first match was on, if I'm not mistaken, July 23rd of 2011, and I worked against a guy by the name of Gino Seidel for SPWA in Raymer, Tennessee. I remember it being a very interesting match, I guess you could say. Everyone, everyone has funny stories about their first match, and mine was surely no different, I'm sure.
Interesting. So before you had this match, did you get any sign of the butterflies? Did you get nervous? Getting ready for your first match in front of an audience, want to make a good first impression. Did you get nervous?
Well, sure, I guess the nerve is also something that's it's kind of prevalent with any kind of performer. And I think that one of the best things about being a solid performer is being able to use those to your advantage and use butterflies to go out and perform to a high level. And I feel like I have and did, and just trying to use every opportunity to take those butterflies and turn them into something positive.
Well put, man. Well said. So, how would you best describe your wrestling style? You consider yourself a technician, submission specialist, high flyer, brawler. What would be the best to describe your wrestling style?
I, I liken myself as a hybrid, but it's a hybrid of power, strong style, and really something I've kind of developed that is, I don't know if I could say arrogant or douchebaggy. Uh, just very arrogant, I suppose is the right word. Just very, just awful.
Well, let's just say it's a variety of things. Like you never know what the opponent's gonna get. You never know what you're gonna do. The opponent doesn't
Exactly.
know. He's calling himself a variety kind of guy. Um, so what do you like the most of being a wrestler? Do you like traveling? Do you like being on the? Do you like doing the shows? You like the fan interaction, hanging out with your peers? What do you like the most of being a wrestler?
I love the entire package, my friend. I love definitely love being at the shows. I love working out in the ring beforehand. If you've got some guys that you like working with and you feel like you can open your mind to be creative with, it's always great to get in the ring with them and to experiment and to try new things. Of course, who doesn't love traveling and going new places, making new impressions? And I've always been interested in booking and in the creative side of the business as well, and I love to take part in that as much as I can with the bookers in my home fed and with anyone who will listen, really. So I love being a wrestler. That's what I've always wanted.
What do you consider the highlight of your wrestling career thus far? It could be like a match that you had. It could be a storyline or angle, or maybe a championship that you may have won. What do you consider the highlight of your wrestling career?
Hmm. I, is it okay if it's a tie?
Sure, sure, sure.
Well, the first one I have to mention is a couple of weeks ago. you spoke to a guy who is beyond instrumental in my career. Uh, One of my very best friends and my tag team partner, Sean Reed.
Yes, sir.
When he and I began the gimmick Whiteout, we since then have had so much fun. I speak for me, and I'll speak for Sean as well in saying that it's been so much fun to take this gimmick and to watch it evolve into something that people legitimately cannot stand, and we have so much fun doing, and we can just go and entertain, and it is the most fun thing in the entire world. And tied with that would be my favorite match, which was the culmination of a pretty long storyline that we did with myself and a former tag team partner, Sandoval. We ended our feud, so to speak, with a pretty intense hardcore match in Raymer this past December. It was definitely my most memorable match, I will say.
Who do you consider as as an influence, or better yet, influences in your wrestling career? It could be anyone from the Indy circuit, or it could be anyone from the pros that stood out to you. You know, anyone that made you want to become a wrestler. Who do you consider as influences in your career?
Well, of course, as a kid, everyone remembers their favorite wrestler, and I would be amiss to go without saying that my favorite wrestler as a child was Kevin Nash, and that always gets the most interesting response from everybody. And I absolutely loved him as a kid. I thought he was just the coolest thing. Of course, as I grow up and get more styles under my belt, I love Samoa Joe. I love Super Dragon and Kenta Kobashi. Anyone that brings the real hard-hitting athletic sport element, but doesn't have the skinny or muscular body. I appreciate their style because I appreciate how much it takes to put that big body to work and how much extra gas it takes, so to speak. And then, of course, Sean Reed is a huge influence to me. Izzy Rotten, both of those guys, I will say, my two trainers, they are both huge inspirations. And opponents I've had, various opponents inspire me to raise my performance. I try to take something from every match or every show I watch.
So, do you have any upcoming shows, events that you have coming up that you would like to promote?
Of course. Well, at the moment, we have a show coming up in Selmer, Tennessee at the National Guard Armory. We're not exactly sure on the start time at the moment. We're planning on it being 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Everyone around the area should come out because we have the best talent that you haven't heard of. And it really is a shame because, a lot of us do a lot to promote ourselves. And you understand how wrestling is there, Kenny. I mean, it's a really dog-eat-dog world, and it's really tooth and nail about clawing your way up. And we present a great show for a really low price, and it's a great time to be had by all. I'm in Raymer, Tennessee quite a lot. I'll be in Selmer Saturday, and like I said earlier, I love traveling. I mean, anywhere and everywhere I could go, I would love to go.
As you reach this point in your wrestling career, what are some goals you would like to accomplish? Is it like more traveling? Is it more matches? Is it maybe going to, more main event caliber matchups? Or maybe consider being in like a WWE or a TNA or Ring of Honor someday? Is there any other goals that you would like to accomplish?
Absolutely. I feel like the day that I stop having goals will be the day that I need to stop wrestling. Just as far as the immediate future, I would love to travel. I can be reached online many different ways. I have, the Andrew Palmer Facebook page, the Whiteout Facebook page. I have a Twitter account, which you have so graciously plugged over the last week, and all these various things. And I would love to work one day with good independent companies I respect. I love interspecies wrestling from Canada. They are phenomenal. They're hilarious and very different. I love PWG in California. They make the best shows, bar none, hands down, on the planet. I love them. And Shakara Pro in Philadelphia with Mike Quackenbush and his group of students, they're wonderful. Every single thing that any of those three companies do, I put a firm stamp of approval on. I'd love to get there. And as far as WWE or TNA or I suppose Ring of Honor go, the door's always open. I wouldn't say no ever. I would never say no, because that would be the chance to entertain on such a grand level, and that's what we're all in this for.
So, last week there's been a heated topic about the IOC's decision on removing the wrestling from the Olympics after 2016. Over the last week or so, I've asked wrestlers their thoughts on it, and it's pretty much been unanimous of their disappointment and uproar towards the IOC's decision. And I want to get your thoughts on the IOC having the audacity of removing wrestling from the Olympics.
Well, I definitely agree. I think that them having the audacity was the perfect phrase, because when you think back to the ancient Romans and the ancient Greeks, whenever the Olympics were first conceived, wrestling was one of the original sports. That was an original drawing point for the Olympics. I mean, sure, you had your running and your lifting, but wrestling, if I had to guess, and I'm not brushed up on history of the Olympics, but I would speculate that was one of the bigger attractions. And it is a shame, because anyone who has that deep knowledge of actual mat working is tremendous. I've seen a couple of those guys in my career, and they are always extremely knowledgeable. And it is a shame, because I was listening earlier when you were speaking with Miss Bellany about Kurt Angle and his really vehement disagreeal with all this in the Olympic Committee, and him vowing he was going to get the Olympics back. More power to him. Go for it, Kurt.
I mean, if there's any person that should lead this whole petition, or any if there's anyone that should lead this wrestling industry into getting their voice heard, it's definitely Kurt Angle. I mean, his claim to fame is the Olympics, after all. In 1996, he won a gold medal. He won it with a broken neck, like every single time he likes to bring that up. The broken neck part, that was in Atlanta. I believe I was in Atlanta when I was a little boy, but I didn't get a chance to see that moment because I didn't know who he was at the time. But Kurt Angle, if there's anyone that should lead the way, it's definitely this guy. And I hope that maybe, just maybe, they say never say never, that someone from the IOC is looking back on this and hearing this uproar from the wrestling industry, not just mat wrestling in general, but WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, Indy Wrestling, Shakara, list goes on and on. Know how disappointing this is of the decision. Come to their senses and keep wrestling on the Olympics. I mean, if badminton and curling and some other recreation sports have room for the Olympics, then a sport that's been there since 1896 should have a place for the Olympics. Credibility has been shot because of this decision. Whoever came up with this decision, I want to know this person's name. I want to know where he lived. I want to know why he or she or they come up with such a decision. But I'm done with my rant. But that's just how I feel. So sorry about that.
No, because anyone in the sport or any fan of Olympic wrestling would be sure to agree with you. The other day at work, I was speaking to a customer about this, and the topic came up, and curling, actually, like you said, was brought up. And, how dare I insult any athlete, because, athletics of any kind are difficult, but still, the argument that I brought up earlier about the sacred history of wrestling in the Olympics. And, when you compare wrestling and curling, you tell me who wins.
all I know is if a sport of the Olympics, if it doesn't require you to sweat, if it doesn't cause you to hurt, not necessarily injured, but if it doesn't get you sweat and it doesn't give you hurt, then I'm sorry, it should not be in the Olympics. I mean, I want sweat. I want competition. I want fierce. I want people to battle it out for the country for these medals. And curling, I mean, just pushing something or whatever. I mean, I'm sorry. It, it's a recreation sport. I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't get it at all. So everybody check him out, Andrew. Check him out on Facebook. Check out Whiteout, the Facebook fan page. Follow him on Twitter, Real Drew Wheeler. Um, yeah, that's your Twitter. Just check this man out. Shout out to Sean Wee. Like you said, I interviewed him a few weeks ago. Very cool cat. And
Oh yeah.
support local indie pro wrestling, most definitely. And I want to thank you for being on the show. Best of success goes out to you, man, and indie wrestling in general. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you so much, Kenny, man. We'll see you soon.
All right. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's my good friend Andrew joining me here on Triple Threat.